Hello, everybody. My name is Brandon Dombrowski, and I'm here today to talk to you about an introduction to the technical program manager role within North Seattle College's Application Development Department. Today, we'll talk about the primary responsibilities of the technical program manager and why it's relevant to our group projects and North Seattle College's approach to practicums moving forward. Um, some of the key responsibilities of the technical program manager are design, management of project infrastructure, and general project management. Then again, we'll talk about a little bit deeper into project management itself, why buy-in is important, the administrative tasks of planning, running, and recording the weekly meetings, what it looks like to build out and oversee the team communication plans, general stakeholder management, and then design development of new products and features that might be coming down the road, and also the project direction and planning leadership. There's also a lot of administration and scheduling, which can be a lot of fun once you really get into it. One of the key roles of the technical program manager, which is a little bit different than the technical project manager, is that there's a higher level responsibility for design and management of the project plan infrastructure, and also just having a very keen understanding of general project management principles. The technical program manager will co-lead the teams along with the product owner and the lead developer. When it comes to design, a lot of the initial planning was taken care of from the program manager role, using an agile-based planning software. The management of project plan infrastructure is more than just sketching out the plan's tasks. It's establishing dependencies and relationship. And one of the even, I think, in my opinion, bigger issues is defining risk for the leadership team. And risk in our capacity typically refers to the amount of time that we think something will take to get done versus the actual time that it will take to get done, and being able to define that in clear terms for the team so that we can continue planning. Also, this one is not necessarily as relevant in an academic setting, but if you have a longer period of time, the program manager is going to help determine where the slack is placed within the plan, along with the technical project manager. I also list here general project management development because the technical program manager needs to have a very strong knowledge of all of the basic principles and guide rails and the different components of project management in general. And then one of the fun things that I take as to be fun within the role is to help choose the technical program manager successor. As many of you know, I'll be graduating at the end of fall quarter, and Brink has been chosen to succeed me once I'm gone. And then I also get to help mentor and train them, which is something that I take very seriously and enjoy very much. When it comes to project management, we have built out within the learning series some of the videos about the introduction to project management, and the second video in that series, which is a little bit more on project management. But within the scope of the technical program manager role, one of the big things is mentoring and supporting the technical project managers. And in some cases, that means that in the same way that the developers will get together for pair programming, sometimes the project managers will do the same. Sometimes that's led by the program manager, sometimes that includes the product owners, but the idea of mentoring and supporting the TPMs is something that's really important. And also too, if one of them are sick or there's a missed deadline, the technical program manager will have the capacity and the authority to step in and take on some of those responsibilities, just to make sure that we remain on time and on schedule and on budget as it goes. One thing, in maybe the most ideal world, the technical program manager would never have to go through the PR backlog to help clear out some of the PRs and get those things approved and merged. So far, there's not been a lot of me having to do that, except for maybe earlier on during the summertime. But as a backup, the technical program manager will assist in clearing out the PR backlog. But I typically, for myself personally, think that that's a better role suited for the technical project managers and the product owners outside of the development team. The technical project manager the technical program manager also works to develop and support the technical project managers and the product owners and develop their roles for the team. One of the big things when you're putting together a project is setting up, the governance of the team, what the roles are, who does what, who's responsible for what, etc. And within the purview of the technical program manager role, your job would be, if you were ever to do this, and my job has been, onboarding the team members, setting up the learning biweeklies, planning for, preparing, and leading the leadership meetings, and just really on a much higher level, making sure that all the wheels are kept on the bus, because as a project like this begins, or like the ones that we're working on, become bigger and more demanding, it's important to make sure that, everybody's on the same page, that we're all moving in the same direction. And like I said, the visual of keeping the wheels on the bus is probably, I think, one of the most adept ways of thinking of that. Also, to just in general, the technical program manager, which was myself, was a part of the team first. And so in that capacity, I set up the repositories when onboarding the new clients, and also, within those repositories, bringing on the team members and giving them permissions and access. That's going to be a part of the role as well. Another thing, this one's not necessarily as fun, but it's probably one of the very useful things that a technical program manager can do, and that's auditing the technical project manager's work within the repositories. One thing that you would find if you took a look between and compared and contrast our two repositories that we have set up, very, very much of it is set up to be similar across the repositories in terms of a standard format. There is a little bit of nuance and a little bit of variation, which is to be expected because the technical program manager is not going to make an absolute ruling to say everything has to be exactly the same. We are all people and we have different ways of doing things, but by and large, the foundation and the formatting between the repositories is very similar. And from time to time, the technical program manager needs to go in and check in and just to make sure that those things are maintaining a reasonable formatting structure so that they don't diverge too much, which could be confusing to the developers. Also within the technical project management side of the technical program management role is stretching a sprint or reassigning a sprint number to an issue if that's needed. Over the summer, there was a couple of things that we thought we needed to do earlier on, and we kind of kept kicking the issue down the road because it didn't seem quite relevant for the sprint numbers that we're on. And that's something that the technical program manager should be well aware of and ready to make changes when it's necessary. One of the key things that I've talked about in some of the other learning videos, especially the project management introduction or learning series, is buy-in. This is really, really important when moving a project along, no matter how small or large that it is. And I think that a lot of how that is received and how buy-in is achieved is by seeing it from the top levels all the way down. And that's why it's important for the technical program manager to foster a sense of consensus, collaboration, and cooperation within the team. And I've said it before in the leadership meetings, and I don't always talk about it so much in class, but I always reinforce and remind the team that in the space that I'm working and in the role that I'm working on, I am not the boss. It doesn't come down to me to make the decisions. We work in a collaborative, in a cooperative kind of fashion. And so the team essentially is the one that makes the decision. Though the product owner is, responsible for the end product and the deliverable, the technical program manager really needs to be on buy-in and making sure that the team buys into the project, because that can make the difference between moving forward by leaps and bounds or struggling the whole way to meet deadlines. Also, a part of the buy-in is demonstrating the ability of the plan to stakeholders in ways that are meaningful to them. So for example, if I were going to talk to Belinda's Closet, I would most likely speak to them and encourage my product owners to speak to them on the business terms that are relevant to them and not get too muddied down in, the really finite details of development, because the client is not going to understand those. So you need to know who your audience is and make sure that you're using the appropriate tools at your resources to communicate with them in a way that's meaningful to them, to the stakeholder. I also think that it's very important to support the team with positive regard. I think that each member on our team has something very valuable to offer. And I think that it's also important as a leader to help them understand how important their work is and how pivotal, their performance and completion of tasks is to the overall larger scale of the project. Also, too, just one thing that I think goes without saying, but I think that it's really pertinent to touch base on, is that buy-in is not just for everyone else. It doesn't apply to everyone except for the technical program manager or to the technical project managers. It is for everyone on the team, including both types of TPMs. One of the larger tasks, and it's on the administrative side of things, is to plan and record the weekly meeting. So over the summer, we met weekly, as a classroom-based student group, and in the fall we moved into an academic setting. And due to the scheduling and nature of being a student and most of us having jobs, a lot of the work has to be done async. And in a professional, real world production environment, stand-ups typically happen daily. But for us in this particular setting, it happens weekly. So there are some positive associations with that, mostly allowing students to have the time outside of class and outside of their work lives to be able to juggle everything. But then a little bit of some things are lost in translation because you're not able to meet each day. So there's both positive and negative consequences of that. In the stand-ups, which you're all used to by now, there's some things that can be included in that are super important. It's mainly what you did this week, what you plan to do next week, any of the blockers that you might have, any backlog issues that you have time to work on outside of the issues you're already working on, and how much time you have to give. It's really important for the planning team to know, if somebody's going to be on vacation, or, if they're having a child, or if they need to step away from being a student for a particular period of time for any given reason. It's important for the leadership team to know that so that they can make accommodation for the person and also make sure that their issues or stories are still being worked on. The technical program manager will create the meeting agenda, even if other stakeholders are leading the meeting. And as you've seen in class already, this particular thing in practice is that typically I lead the meeting, and then I invite the other members of the leadership team, the lead developer, the product owners, and the project managers, to give any updates before we split into sub teams, as a way to keep the whole team apprised of what's going on. Another great tool that keeps us all honest and working on time and on schedule is the communication plans. We really like to have very detailed communication plans that include all of the notes that we have, not only of what we wish to cover in the meetings, but some of the things that we talk about during the meetings. And, many of you are aware by this point that we have a parking lot for things that should be brought to the communication plans that may have been left out or forgotten. And so it's really important to keep very detailed notes within the communication plan. We also record the meetings that we have that are aligned with those communication plans. So if you don't have time to watch the video, you can read over the notes. If something within the notes doesn't seem, make enough sense to you, you can go find that space in the video and kind of pinpoint where that's at for a little bit of convenience on, the part of others that are going to be, watching those things not live, that, maybe they have to miss class for some reason or another. The team communication plan for the entire AD program, that lives in Notion. The communication plans for Belinda's Closet also lives in Notion, but the communication plan for NSC events is within a Google folder. when the summer team was working, I thought it was really important to give the project managers the autonomy to make the choices that they thought were best for them and within their team. So, those weren't arbitrary choices. We had a lot of discussions about that, but that's kind of how that looks right now. It may change in the future because, as you know, a project like this is going to continuously evolve and continuously improve. And, that's just the nature of working on a technical project like this, using Agile and Scrum. The client communication plan should include a standard cadence for the product owner to connect with the client. Right now, this is suggested to be at least weekly during the summertime when maybe less is going on, or for at least my experience working on the summer project is, we didn't have something to report to the client every week. A 2-week cadence probably at a minimum is something that would be a good rule of thumb. And obviously that will change as well. So the next topic is stakeholder management, and not all of these bullet points relate specifically to our projects that we're working on. And this is kind of like the ideal of what that would be like. But at some level, the technical program manager is going to need good stakeholder management skills because they will interact with the client. Obviously the professor, because they are the boss of the class. Nobody within the student leadership team is the boss. The professor is the end boss. There's also the administrators within the college, because we're in an academic environment. And we talked a little bit about that in our last meeting that happened on October 17th, that there was a really important meeting where students from the summer team presented to the college administrators, and we're essentially there to not only demonstrate their work, but be honored for how, well they're doing it. And, and the administrative, people within that meeting were very excited. This one is one that's not necessarily as relevant to us either, but will be important in the real world is the people who are paying for this thing. And typically the client, it may be a corporation, whoever is holding the purse is definitely going to be somebody that the technical program manager, along with the product owner, is going to want to make sure that they have a good relationship with, and that they manage that relationship well. One of the larger stakeholder groups is the Scrum team, because that's a team comprised of more than one person. And that's the Scrum Master, which is generally the technical project manager, the product owner, and then the lead developer and development team as one unit. So the three key players in a Scrum team, are the Scrum Master, the product owner, and the development team as a whole. In our particular team governance, the lead developer oftentimes speaks for the development team because they have a really deep and in-depth knowledge of the individual developers and where the project is at, and a lot of the things that need to be done to accomplish our goals. And then, of course, the end user is always somebody that's important to think about when it comes to stakeholder management, because without the end user, nothing else really matters, because typically that's who the app or the project is being designed. It's with them in mind. Design development of new products and features. This is not something that we've really had to put too much time into quite yet, but as the new concept for what a practicum could or should look like, and our momentum continues to grow, there's going to be times when new clients are onboarded. They may have different needs. We might not just be building a simple app for them. Perhaps one of the customers wants to build an app for, a Samsung or Apple smartwatch for users to be able to use, outside of their cell phones. And those are types of apps that we could certainly look at having to build if that's what the client needs. And when it comes down to it, the sky's the limit. Like, our particular industry is ever changing, ever evolving, and ever growing, and there's new stuff that's developed all the time. So within the purview of the technical program manager, there might be times when I would relate to the team, hey, did you guys know about this great new thing? Or, I know that this might be a particular good client for us to prospect, and maybe we can build something for them, et cetera. So that's kind of where the design and development of the new products and features kind of fits into that. And then just like I said, with new clients. Right now we're working with Belinda's Closet and North Seattle College Events. Well, next year it'll be likely 2 new clients, maybe even 3. And those new clients will have to be onboarded. And the summer team, as we continue moving forward, and as we did over the summer, we built out a foundation for what it looks like to onboard new clients and what's necessary for that. So that the technical program manager has a keen role in like new client onboarding. Project direction and planning leadership is a big part of the technical program manager role. So, I take it very personally, and it's very important to me to support the team, and to make sure that each of the team members feel supported, and that each of them feel like that their contribution is not only relevant but important to the overall project itself. And really what that means is in conjunction with the various stakeholders, just making sure that each person that works on the team, feels like they are supported. And that often is through coaching and mentorship, and moving, the teams forward. And then also for me, I think that one of the best ways to achieve the desired results and the team that you work with is by modeling the behavior that's important to your role, so that others can see it and understand it, and make the necessary adjustments within themselves if they're either interested in the role or they're already in that role and kind of struggling. In terms of direction and support, it's also really important to support the product owners and to know what's going on within the project, so that we can allow or cannot allow creep as time permits. Obviously, if we have the time and the resources, it's within in the interest of the client for us to build out as much cool stuff and features as we can. But that also means being kind of like a little bit of a gatekeeper in terms of not letting certain things increase the scope that may just end up causing the project to take longer than it has anticipated, because then you end up missing deadlines and things don't get done on time. So, like I said, both allowing for and not allowing for creep is something to be important to think about as a technical program manager. And then within our governance, and how we've set up our projects, is that a change request would be needed, as well as professor approval if additional features were permitted within the scope of a particular project. And then one thing that I both enjoy about the role and take very seriously is mentoring of the team. That requires active listening. Like I said, when I meet with the leadership team, I stress to them that I'm not the boss. Sometimes they'll come to me and they'll ask me a pointed question and hope that I have the answer to it. And typically what I do is listen to what the request is and kick it back to the team, so that the team can weigh on in it. Because like I said, the program manager is not the boss, the professor is, and to some degree the client. Leading by example, I've already mentioned this, is very important. There's a saying that I heard one time on Star Trek when I was a kid, and it's something that's resonated with me through my entire life. And it's something to the effect of, in your own behavior, if you embody the characteristics that you hope to see in others, you have a better shot at getting them to not only see your point of view, but to also maybe warm up to those ideas as well. And so that's kind of my approach to leadership, is through my own behavior and through my own actions. I exemplify the characteristics I hope to see in my team. And that's just something that, it's not easy, and it takes time to develop those skills as a leader, because I don't think that we're all born just being natural leaders. I know some people are, but it does take a lot of work. And it's also very rewarding. Encouragement and inspiration. This is also something that's very important, because if you're never giving your team positive regard, sometimes it's hard for them to know if they're doing the right thing, and I think that it's important on the mentoring side, but just in general for leadership, when you are leading up people and teams, is that you really want to help them see the good in themselves and their work, and to really reinforce and have them know how valuable it is. And just the last thing that I'll say on mentoring is, in a leadership role, and when you have a mentorship responsibility, like a really great thing is being able to step back and see and plan for a bold future for your team. You want to give them every opportunity to shine and to be successful, and you also want to be able to guide a future that allows us, in the student role, and even in real life when we get there, working on a production team, is having a bold future, is producing something that's really great, something that inspires people, something that they're excited about. That not only is going to make your work more rewarding, it's going to keep you interested in getting up every day and going and working on it. And having an environment where your leaders are doing that is something that I think makes a really fun work environment in general. So thank you so much, everybody, for paying such kind, close attention to this video. I hope you learned a lot. And if you have any questions, feel free to ping me.